Greetings tonight, everyone. Welcome back. Myself, I've been gone for about a week, and I apologize for those that have set up to watch this at 1, but I'm doing okay, but I did have a little bit of a scare. But I think that everything happens for a reason, and the scare was about my health, and so it kind of put things into perspective for myself to just kind of take care of myself a little bit more and do what I can to, I guess, have longevity in my life, and not take things for granted, because I've been relatively healthy all my life, never really having any major diseases or anything. So I have taken my health for granted, and I had a little bit of a scare with a blood clot. So I was experiencing some shallow breathing and possibly some slowed circulation. But I got a full CT scan, and basically I'm fine. An ultrasound actually on my legs. And so I'm really glad that I did that, because now I can know a little bit more about my body and kind of understand more about what to look for and what to do to keep myself more healthier. So it's back to yoga again for me, and I need to stop being lazy in the wintertime, which sometimes it's very easy for me to do. I'm like a bear. I hibernate during the winter. I'm very much like a bear. So I'm back. Everything is okay, but I just needed to take that week just to kind of figure out my health situation and just deal with what I needed to deal with. But tonight, we are going to talk all about the I-Ching. So I am very excited to talk about this, because this is an ancient system that has been used by emperors of China, by presidents, by secret societies, by the Beatles, I heard, and by Bob Dylan. Many celebrities have used the I-Ching. And it is basically a divination oracle system. So it's very much like the Viking runes, if you understand about throwing the stones and seeing the symbols and gathering information on the subconscious through looking at these stones and these symbols. So I really like it, because I always believe in divinations. I believe that everything is a mirror for us, whether to learn from something, to get more confirmation or affirmation about something. And so I believe in tarot cards and runes, and the I-Ching is very much like the runes. It's a little bit different in a system, but it's using basically symbols to give you insight and information on a situation or a question that you had in mind. So to start out, I found this really interesting book. It's called The I-Ching by David Hinton. And it's a really great book because I picked it out. The author himself is a poet. So the way that he writes is very expressive, and I feel like he understood the interpretation of the I-Ching in a poetic, expressive way that can really help you, gather some insight into your own life. He had this really wonderful introduction I want to read to you. And I don't know if you can hear this, the nature sounds, but I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Primal emptiness separated into heaven and earth. That's how it all began. Before long, a pair of dragons emerged from bright prosperity mountain. Root breath and Lady She-Voice. Now, dragons in ancient China embodied the awesome force of change. A dragon was in constant transformation, writhing through all creation and all destruction, shaping itself into the 10,000 things tumbling through their traceless transformations. So perhaps the appearance of these dragons was the beginning of the ever-changing diversity of things we know as the cosmos. The legend doesn't say. Root Breath and Lady She-Voice were dragons, but dragons with human heads. They became the first couple, husband and wife, and Lady She-Voice gave birth to humankind. So you see, we are descended from dragons, We have dragon hearts, pumping dragon blood, dragon minds, thinking dragon thoughts. It was Root Breath, our first ancestor, who created the hexagrams, more dragon than human. His thoughts were almost indistinguishable from natural process itself, so when he shaped them into the hexagrams, those strange dragon graphs expressed all phenomena in the endless process of change. Language is how we represent change, reality and its dynamic process of transformation, and it grows out of change. Hexagrams are the first stage in that emergence of language from change, that folding of the cosmos around onto itself to name and describe itself. They are the most ancient form of language in this sense, part dragon language, part human. They represent the movement of change at a more fundamental level than our languages can. Root Breath's hexagrams are made up of 6 lines, each of which could be either a solid yang, male line, or a divided yin, female. And I'm going to share with you the screen here, because this will show you what exactly I am talking about in terms of the hexagrams. So some of you may have seen this before, this picture. Actually, let me make it a little bigger. And you could see the different elements of basically earth, heaven. It's almost like the Wicca elements, the idea of the 5 elements. We have fire, we have wind, we have earth and air, but we also have heaven, we have mountain, we have thunder, we have lake. And I'm going to go into what these mean. But these are basically the 8 that you will be using to reflect on and to look deeper into your own life when you use the I-Ching system as a divination and an oracle to answer some questions. So we'll go through that. But Root Breath's hexagrams are made up of 6 lines, each of which could be either solid yang, male line, or a divided yin, female line, with the 2, almost like the 2 dashes that you see, thereby representing the 2 complementary cosmic principles whose dynamic interaction produces the process of change. And these lines were alive, like dragons and the cosmos itself. The hexagram lines were in constant transformation. Yang became yin, and yin yang, creating different hexagrams, each of which is defined by its particular configuration of yang and yin. So there are actually 64 hexagrams, every possible 6-line combination of yang and yin lines. And these combinations describe every possible configuration in the process of change. The 64 hexagrams make up the actual text of the I-Ching. And I will show you here what that looks like with another picture that I will share with you, because this will show the 64 combinations that you actually use in determining basically the oracle for yourself. And I'm going to actually read to you particular hexagrams that focus on ascension and enlightenment, so that you just get a little bit of an idea of what these hexagrams look like and how to read them in your own life. And since these videos are all about enlightenment, personal enlightenment and your ascension process, well, then that's what we're going to focus on tonight. But before I go into that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this intro. Now, for me, this is a huge kind of, I guess, an awakening for me, and the idea of bringing it all together. The idea of dragons in our history, in also the idea of the future. Many of us know that there's 2 types of dragons that we think about that is in the collective. Helpful dragons, those that have great wisdom to share. They're mythical. Sometimes they're fairy dragons seen in the fairy realms, friends of wizards, friends of elves. And then you have the other types of dragons that are seen as the enemies of man, the lizards, the reptilians, those that have kind of a representation of the lizard mind or the reptilian mind of the human being, which is really a reflection of the reactionary and emotional response of the human rather than using the intellect, the greater part of reason, and also a higher spiritual connection to source. So the reptilian mind is kind of the programmed part of the early humans, and that is related to the lizards, to the dragons. But there's another aspect of dragons, which is what the Chinese really connected to, the idea that dragons represent a greater power, a fundamental power. They're connected to all elements, so they're elemental beings in a way. They are most representative of fire, and you'll see that within these hexagrams, because fire is seen as a very positive type of omen or oracle. And so we'll talk about that when I get into some of the interpretations. But for me, it was a really wonderful thing to learn more about the I-Ching, because I always felt this dynamic difference between, the bad dragons and the good dragons. And I've always felt that actually that it's not that dragons are good or bad, but that it is really about how you use their wisdom and how you move carefully through your life. And they kind of represent this idea of just being really inwardly reflective before you make some kind of move or action. In J.R.R. Tolkien's story, for example, the dragon actually represents the greed of the dwarves. So the greed of the dwarves hoarding the gold in the mountain and the jewels brings on the dragon. And so it's not that the dragon is the actual cause of the greed, but is actually the effect of the greed that the dwarves found themselves in. So the dragons are this kind of warning to everybody, and they can be seen as having, great luck with them as well, which the Chinese actually really attributed the dragons to, the luck dragon, and also the symbol of change and transformation. Now we see that also with the Vikings and some of the Norse mythology, like Ragnarok, where it's the idea of the serpent eating its own tail at the end of time. So I think that the lizard type of archetype has been within this collective for a long time. And it's just a matter of getting in touch with that side of yourself and using it for good rather than using it for evil, because the dragon has a lot of power. The fire energy of the dragon has a lot of power. It can lay destruction alongside the path and basically can destroy everything. But the dragon also symbolizes inward power and discipline and truth and honesty and a lot of really great values. So it's just a matter of kind of siding with the ideal side of the dragon archetype and using that in your life. And the Chinese embody that. And you'll see that in the I-Ching, because fire is actually representing beauty and radiance rather than danger or destruction. So it's a little bit of a different system. Those of us that are into kind of the elemental type of symbolism, that's kind of what fire represents. But I'm going to keep going here because there's a really great part here where he talks about what this all means. As they express, so as all the 64 hexagrams that you see, as they express all phenomena, past, present, and future, the hexagrams contain the secrets of civilization too. Applying those secrets, Root Breath taught people how to hunt and fish, how to keep livestock and cook with fire. He was also the first emperor, and the ancient emperors that followed also understood the secrets contained in his hexagrams. Using the hexagrams, they taught people about bow and arrow, plow and boat, pottery and markets, carts and buildings, and finally, writing. And so it makes sense, because it grew out of the hexagrams that writing would be the form of pictograms representing reality with all immediacy. All of this time, the earth was alive with geological transformation. Much later, it was covered by a flood. And another great emperor rescued the people by raising up mountains and carving out rivers to drain flood waters away. So this is part of the I-Ching mythology. Maybe it happened because writing was invented, or maybe it was because we had grown too far from our dragon ancestors. No one knows. But somehow, after the floodwaters drained away, legendary emperors were no more, and we lost our ability to decipher the primeval language of hexagrams. And so eventually, sages began writing descriptions and interpretations and evocations of the hexagrams, trying to articulate the possibilities opened by those dragon graphs. It was a kind of philosophical storytelling. First, they gave the hexagrams names and evocative interpretations. Then they described and interpreted the individual lines within the configuration of each hexagram. Eventually, they described and interpreted the trigrams, the top and bottom halves of the hexagrams. And because those original hexagram interpretations were so mysterious, they added elaborations on those interpretations. These first levels of elaboration were hardly less primal and mysterious than the hexagrams themselves. Indeed, they seem to establish the mysteries of the original hexagrams rather than explain them. They were, we might now say, poetry. Indeed, much of this text is rhymed in the original. These are the layers of the I-Ching presented, perhaps the most ancient of all Chinese texts, full of poetry and mysterious philosophy, alive somehow outside of time, both primal and postmodern at once. So as you can see, we're going to go back to the other image, because this is the 64 hexagrams. So just keep in mind that these are all the combinations. And if I just make this a little bit larger, you can see they have numbers attributed to them. And the number system is important because you'll find that you are able to kind of look up those numbers and basically learn about each of the interpretations of what hexagram you're looking at. So I'm going to show you once again that simple 8, because when you know the simple 8, then you basically can understand, oops, sorry, that's the other one. You can understand basically what they're actually pointing to as far as like what they're trying to teach us about nature and about ourselves. Because it's really about the microcosm connected to the macrocosm. So it is about nature being connected to us. So as you can see, you have heaven, wind, water, mountain, earth, thunder, fire, and lake. So I'm going to just read to you here that this is what it really means. So heaven, where you see, that means steadfast and strong. Just 2 words, but the interpretation I can actually go into a little bit further, and I will, because I think that this book lays it out really beautifully for us. So heaven means this: all origins penetrating everywhere. Heaven is inexhaustible in bringing forth wild bounty and abundance. So the presentation, when you get this as your oracle, heaven, in any kind of combination, it adds to your situation the idea that you can think of abundance coming into your life, or understanding to have a greater perspective of heaven. So the presentation is this: how vast and wondrous the heaven of origins. The 10,000 things all begin from it. It governs the sky, the movement of clouds, the coming of rain. It gives all the various things their distinct forms. How vast its illumination of ends and beginnings. When the potent places of these 6 lines are realized in their proper seasons, the seasons mount the 6 sun dragons and soar through the sky. The way of heaven is all change and transformation at the hinge of things, where the unfurling nature of each thing itself is perfected. It nurtures vast harmony and wholeness, and remains inexhaustible in bringing forth wild bounty. When its dragon head rears up among the innumerable things, it unites the 10,000 kingdoms in wholeness and peace. So that's what that interpretation means. So every time that you get a hexagram, when you use the coin system or the yarrow stick system, which I'll talk about in a bit, when you're tossing the coins, much like rune stones in the air, and they land a certain way, then you're attributing a certain value of the heads and tails to create those lines. So when you get that particular that symbol of heaven, you can take that inward in your own life, and it will have many different meanings to all different individuals that look at it. The second one I want to talk about is earth, which is yielding and devoted. And earth we see here. All origins penetrating everywhere, earth is inexhaustible as a mare horse in bringing forth wild bounty. And so it is that when the noble-minded set out in the lead towards the destination, they soon fall into confusion. But when they follow, they reach the bounty of that wondrous host, finding friends on southwest plains, losing friends in northeast mountains, and noble-minded remain inexhaustible and serene, and so come to good fortune. So noble-minded, when the I-Ching is talking about this is very much connected to Confucianism, because this is based on Confucius wisdom of the Tao and Taoism. So noble-minded is basically almost like what the Eightfold Noble Truths are of Buddhism too. The idea to have right speech, right think, right action, right way of being. It's about always taking the higher road in life and not stooping to lower levels to achieve what you want, not harming others to get what you want in life, and to always, try to make the better choices for yourself, the wiser decisions for yourself that will lead you to a more happy, more peaceful, less stressed life, and alleviate your suffering too. Or in the state of suffering, you can actually appreciate, in a sense of sereneness and noble-mindedness, your suffering state. You can actually have gratitude for the suffering that you go through, as you basically learn that it helps gain you strength, and it helps bring forth wisdom. So this is about looking at your life in a way where you're looking at yourself with hard work and determination. So when you get earth in some combination, it is symbolizing some type of hard work that is needed. There's discipline, or there's something that you need to apply, or it's suggesting that you have been a hard worker and that you will reap the benefits of what you have put out there into the world. So it could be a reminder to work harder in life, or it can be just a affirmation or confirmation that you're a hard worker, and that everything that you have done, there are going to be rewards that you will see with everything that you have worked towards. It's just a matter about being patient and not losing the faith. So the presentation with this is how perfect and wondrous the earth of origins. The 10,000 things are all born from it, yielding and devoted as a river. It supports the sky. It carries things along in its generosity, joins them boundlessly in its heart sight clarity, opens them away all vast radiance in its embrace, and it unites all the various things in wholeness, penetrating everywhere. A mere horse is like the land, for it roams the land boundlessly. So you can think about the symbolism of a horse. I absolutely love horses, and I do attribute this type of working mentality of the horse. The horse will carry the human. The horse will carry the plow. And the horse really doesn't protest much. And it's really about being the worker horse, and understanding that when you put forth effort that way, that these types of abundance can actually be rewarded to you, or your blessings you can actually come across. A mare horse is like the land, for it roams the land boundlessly, and all tender as scent, yielding and devoted as a river. Earth is inexhaustible in bringing forth wild bounty. And so it is that when the noble-minded set out in the lead toward a destination, they soon fall into confusion and lose the way. But when they follow, yielding and devoted as a river, they master constancy. Finding friends on southwest plains, they move with kindred spirits. Losing friends in northeast mountains, they know blessings whole and through to completion. Inexhaustible and serene in their good fortune, they live boundless as the land. Really beautiful poetry, but that's from the I-Ching. That's actually what is presented in the I-Ching. The next one is water. So let's talk about the water. And water, we have to go to this page. Water has a different symbol than what we would maybe think of in the Vedic or the types of other astrological or zodiacs. Water in this regard in Chinese philosophy is abyss or danger. So it's not about dreams or emotions as we might find in the 12 zodiacs, but this is about abyss and danger. So this, if you get the water symbol somewhere in the 64 hexagrams, then it is definitely a warning sign to beware, that there's upcoming danger in your life. So the abiding abyss. In the abiding abyss, possessing the dedication of a bird sitting on eggs, this is how heart-minded penetrates everywhere. Then whatever you do, it will be revered. The presentation. The abiding abyss or abiding abyss is all danger, layered through danger. Water pours into it, but it's never filled. Can you inhabit that danger without losing your sincerity? Heart-minded penetrates everywhere. This is to dwell at the abiding center of things, steely as a mountain in a cloud. Whatever you do, it will be revered. Setting out is where great achievement begins. Heaven's danger is that you can't climb high enough, and earth's danger is rivers and mountains, hills and ridgelines. Emperors and lords steep themselves in danger and so protect their kingdoms. Follow the seasons of danger, and you'll grow vast, so utterly vast indeed. So the thing about the abyss or danger is that you cannot run from it. This is a sign that you have danger, you have obstacle, you have something in your life that is causing you stress or complications. But this is a reminder to stand fast within that center. Think of yourself in the eye of the hurricane, as it said, that you dwell in the abiding center of things steely as a mountain in a cloud. So you're untouched by all this chaos that's around you, but you're surrounded by abyss and danger. But in your heart, when you're heart-minded and focused, and you have what they contribute, the noble-minded self, then you will be able to get through this danger. So this is not something that's saying that you're not going to triumph. This is just letting you know that there's danger in your life, and you need to stay fast and focus on the future, focus on the destination of overcoming that danger, and you will be able to do it. So this next one is thunder, we can look at. So thunder is dragon energy and inciting. So the I-Ching, I think, is really good for those that really love dragons. And, they consider themselves like dragon face souls, dragon star seeds, or dragon, they have some type of connection with the reptilians or some type of connection with lizards in general or snakes. The dragon symbol as the symbolism in the I-Ching is very positive. So I think that it's a very good system for those that really love dragons very much. So this is thunder, dragon, and inciting. Thunder penetrates everywhere. Thunder comes bringing terror, sheer terror, and that's the time to laugh and talk, cackle and caw. Thunder startles everything, even from 100 miles away, without jostling a drop from the ladle of sacrificial wine. So the presentation with this is thunder penetrates everywhere. Thunder comes bringing terror, sheer terror. Fear is what leads to joy and prosperity. And that's the time to laugh and talk and cackle and caw about the fear that you have. Later on, rules and laws will appear. Thunder startles everything, even from 100 miles away. To be startled from a distance means dread is close at hand. When thunder emerges, why not use it to guard over ancestral temples and earth altars? Why not use it to preside over offerings and ceremonies there? So this is a really interesting one. It's really about just kind of facing your fears and laughing in the face of danger. And I particularly like this one. It reminds me of a Valar in J.R.R. Tolkien's mythology. His name was Tolkis, and he came in with the thunder and the lightning, and he would laugh. So I wonder if Tolkien had any idea about the I-Ching, of how he was really showing the symbolism here. But that Tolkis was known as basically the one that could laugh his way through danger, and he was very strong, and he would wrestle any type of dark entity or, Melkor, but he would just laugh, and he was just lighthearted in spirit. So it's a great reminder, if you do get this, that what you are afraid of most in life, if you just change your perspective a little bit and just laugh at yourself being so afraid of it, laugh at what it is that you're afraid of, you will make it smaller within your own mind. You will make it be able to be something that you can overcome. And so this is what this interpretation means. Remember, you're going to get this thunder with other things. So if you get thunder and mountain, we'll talk about what you do when you have a combination of the 64 hexagrams, but this is what thunder represents. So it's this dragon energy that is both fearful as well as fearless. So it brings the terror in. Dragons have been known to bring the fear in with their fire-breathing abilities, destroy whole towns and cities. But at the same time, they also represent fearlessness, and very little can ever scare these beings, these creatures. So it's a wonderful way to get in touch with this dragon energy within yourself, where you can really overcome some of your greatest fears in life. The next one is mountain. Let's talk about mountain. So the mountain is about stillness. Makes sense, right? Still and abiding. So stillness in your back. Expect nothing from your life. Wander the courtyard where you see no one. How could you ever go astray? The presentation is this. Stillness is the same as abiding. In the season for abiding, abide. In the season for moving, move. If you take action in the proper season and cultivate quiet in the proper season, your way is radiant with the illumination of the sun and moon and the dragon's inciting force. Stillness in abiding means abiding in wherever you are. I'm just going to start turning this off here. So it's a little bit quieter. Lofty and lowly stand in opposition. They share nothing. This is why you never go astray when you expect nothing from your life, when you wander the courtyard where you see no one. This is very much like the Stoics idea in ancient Greece. They always believed that if you expect nothing from your life, but you live day to day simply and with gratitude and gratefulness, and you expect nothing really great to come to you, that everything great will come to you, because you're basically showing a sense of humility. You also are not expecting anything. So your expectations are not higher, they're not lowered. So you're not in this stressful state, and that every single thing that comes in your life, you're grateful for, whether they be small blessings or very large. It's because you never had any expectations. So that's a really wonderful way of being. And if we can remind ourselves of that, it can really give us a sense of great peace. So the mountain symbol of this is that stand strong like a mountain, be still, and don't expect anything. Let everything kind of hit the back of you. And it's really just about you being really strong in your core. You're not looking for anything outside of yourself. And you're just this still force on earth while everything else is moving around you and is quite chaotic in life. You yourself can be very still, and you can never go astray this way, because you'll not be moved in the wind to follow every other path and be confused. You'll know who you are, and you'll be standing strong in yourself. Welcome, Mike, Yvonne, and Naren. I am just going through the interpretations, so you can rewatch and kind of learn. I think it's really wonderful, the I-Ching. And it really relates really well to Elven wisdom too, in many ways, because it's all very connected to nature, as you can see with the 8 simple hexagrams that later on turned into the 64 combinations. And I'm just going through them right now. I'm on mountain. So the next one I'm going to talk about is wind, and what that interpretation means. The wind is 2 words that they used in the I-Ching to describe the wind is reverent and inward. So this is what it says. Through inward reverence, so through inward respect, you penetrate everywhere in the smallest ways. Setting out towards a destination brings forth wild bounty, and seeking advice from a great sage also brings forth wild bounty. So the presentation with this is inward reverence, layered through reverence. That is how you further the inevitable unfolding of things. If you live all inward reverence, steely as a mountain in cloud, you live centered at the hinge of things, and your purposes will be realized. All tender ascent, you move, yielding and devoted as a river through everything, steely as a mountain in cloud. If you move like this, you penetrate everywhere in the smallest ways. If you move like this, setting out towards a destination brings forth wild bounty, and seeking advice from a great sage also brings forth wild bounty. So this is a very interesting one. This is about having respect for yourself, having integrity, having a noble mind to do the right thing for yourself, to take the higher road in life just so that you can look fondly on yourself and appreciate the wisdom within yourself. But there's also a reverence, a greater spiritual reverence for all things, and a higher power, if you want to say. So it's about also seeking advice from a higher power. It could be a sage on earth. It could be a messenger, or it can be some type of spiritual ancestor, or even just the great beyond in your own mind of what God is, or great prime source. Seeking advice in this way shows a sense of respect towards whatever it is that you're seeking advice from. So it's about being balanced within, having inward reverence as well as outward reverence for other beings and other things in life. And this type of equilibrium of reverence for yourself and for others is where you experience a sense of wholeness within. It's because you are then unified with all things in many ways, because the Tao is all about being in harmony and being in flow. And the I-Ching really relates to Taoism in a lot of ways, because it is definitely connected to Confucius wisdom. So that's what the wind represents. And the wind in zodiac signs represent, or an air element represents, the higher, lofty mental stimulation, the mind, basically. So using reason and logic and having higher goals and lofty ideas, rather than just kind of the animalistic ones or instinctual ones based on emotion responses or reactions. So this is about you just being noble-minded, having the reverence for yourself, using, great logic and reason within your own life, but as well as seeking for advice from others. So when you get the wind symbol as a type of oracle or divination for yourself, then that might be guidance for you to maybe seek more advice, or it could give you confirmation and affirmation in your own path towards learning how to respect yourself, learning how to live in integrity with yourself more. So I think it's really beautiful the way that you can interpret these things, because it's really just about personal meaning, really, behind this. Mike, Yvonne, and Peter, greetings to you. So how do you know which hexagrams apply to you? We're going to get to that at the end, because I will talk about it. You can use 3 coins to do it, or you could do it with sticks. It's very much like rune stones. You're tossing them up and you're getting the lines, but we'll go through that. The next one, I just wanted to talk about the elemental. I have 2 more, because I just think that that's what pertains to Ascension and Enlightenment, is learning about the wisdom of what these certain elements represent, which are cosmic forces in the universe. That's kind of why it represents the wholeness and totality of the whole cosmos, is because any planet that you go to, even though you might have different combinations of things and elements, you're still going to have possibly some form of wind, some form of water, some form of fire, some form of earth, that kind of thing. And heaven is space above you. And so it's about understanding these natural cosmic forces in the universe and how they apply to us when we see these symbols for them within these kind of divination, rituals. But we'll definitely go through that at the end. So the next one is fire. So like I said, fire, if you are somebody that loves dragons, if you just have this great connection to dragons, then the I-Ching is definitely your system of maybe spiritual path or divination. I do know that some people do this daily. They actually toss coins and they get some kind of message daily. So if you wanted to, you could do that, and that could be a spiritual path for yourself. But this is what the fire element represents for you here. And this is, okay, radiance. So it means radiance and beauty, inexhaustible and penetrating everywhere. Radiance brings forth wild bounty. Nurture it like the docile strength of an ox, and good fortune will prevail. So presentation, radiance is all beauty, beauty of heaven's sun and moon, beauty of the land's 100 grains and grasses and trees, sun and moon, fire and fire, using the beauty at the hinge of things. They transform and perfect all beneath heaven, and because the tender ascent of this beauty is centered at the very hinge of things, it penetrates everywhere, and so nurture it like the docile strength of an ox, and good fortune will prevail. So this just related a lot to the fiery light of the sun. And even though the moon is a reflection of the sun, there's still an element of light to the moon. So it's all about light. It's all about illumination. So this is about you basically walking in your own beauty and your own radiance more. Or it could be a confirmation that you have been doing that and that your life is illuminated through this way. Or it could just mean that you basically need to seek this path for yourself more, so that you can, be in love with life more and feel the beauty of life more in yourself. So this is a great symbolism. It's a little bit different than Christianity, I would say, a lot, and some of the other Abrahamic texts, because as we know, in the Abrahamic texts, fire represents fire and brimstone and hell. Fire is actually seen as a very negative kind of element, in terms of destruction, pain, suffering, and anguish. Whereas fire in this regard is about the light, is about radiance and beauty. So it's just a different way of interpreting. I liked that, though. The next one is lake. So lake is 16 here. This is the last one. Lake is, where's the lake one? Here it is. Okay. So this one is considered to be related to the words opening and delight. So it's a little bit different than water. Water is a symbol for depth or abyss, and that can be dangerous. And this is about opening and delight of the lake. Penetrating everywhere, opening is inexhaustible in bringing forth wild bounty. Opening is the same as delight. This is the presentation. At the abiding center, it's steely as a mountain and cloud, and beyond, it's all tender ascent. Use delight, and you bring forth wild bounty, inexhaustible indeed. Use it, and you move yielding and devoted as a river in following heaven and concurring with humankind. Use delight to put the people first, and the people won't mind all that toil. Use it to battle difficulty, and the people won't even mind death. The vastness of delight, that is what inspires people. Now, it's an interesting interpretation about the people, and almost like talking about some kind of figure that can be, a representative of the people. And that's why the I-Ching was used by emperors for a very long time and consulted by them, because it almost gave them a way how to rule better, how to look at their own life in a way of their own power, and, just to move past doubts and fears, being in such a position of great power and status. So this is definitely related to the emperor lines. And that's why this interpretation is about, if, I guess, an emperor got the lake symbol, then it would be about showing more delight towards the people, be more open as an emperor, and allowing a sense of transparency to be between you and the people. Now, us who are not emperors and we get the lake, we can see it as meaning we need to have more openness within our own lives and find more delight in our life, more joy in our life, because maybe we have been only looking at it from the perspective of very stressful, it's overwhelming, it's not fun, there's no meaning. And this is a type of oracle that you can get that would say you actually need to bring in more of the spirit of the delight into your life. And that's what the lake means in this regard. So this, like I said, is the 8, but there's 64 combinations. So I wanted to read to you just 3 combinations I picked out that are about Ascension and Enlightenment. So the first one is the hexagram number 46, which is called Ascent. Interesting enough, right? So you can find, if you looked up hexagram 46 on Wikipedia or any other type of site that deals with the I-Ching, it's always going to be the same. These are numbered and on a numbered system. So hexagram 46 is about ascent, and it is the earth. So you would have the earth symbol that you see there with the 3 dashes, yielding and devoted, and then you would have wind, reverent and inward. So you would get those 2 combinations. And it says this: in their ascent, origins penetrate everywhere. Wield that ascent when seeking advice from a great sage, and there's no need to worry. Set out for the south, and good fortune will prevail. So in the I-Ching, if you got that, then they would probably start journeying southern, to go seek advice from a sage. And this is the kind of messages that they would use. Here's the presentation for an individual interpretation. Use the seasons of ascent with tender ascent, and then you'll abide centered as a steely mountain in cloud, reverent and inward, yielding and devoted as a river. In this you'll concur with all things, move vast and penetrating everywhere. Wield that ascent when seeking advice from a great sage, and there's no need to worry, for it will bring blessings. Set out for the south, and good fortune will prevail, for your purposes will be realized. So ascent is about making a journey, taking that first step towards your ascension, your own, travels. And so this related to the idea of personal ascension to me, because personal ascension, whether you go through the Gnostics of Christianity, whether you go through the Eastern philosophies, it is about making that first step in awareness that you want to transcend your current state of suffering. You want to move past into a higher dimension of reality in which you can exist in, because there is such a thing as different dimensions, and that will open up different realities of perception, and your perception will give you a greater experience because you're getting closer. The higher dimensions that you go, you're getting closer to the wholeness of the cosmos, the wholeness of yourself. Real inward journey that we're talking about here. So this is what ascension means. It's about an inward journey. And ascent back then also meant that if someone wanted to go on an inward journey, they would go through a long travel to the south, seek out the advice from an old sage that can basically tell them the same thing, that look within. Reflect more on nature. See how nature reflects the inward, the microcosm and the macrocosm. So if you get this combination, then that's what this means. The second one that I picked out was the one about enrichment, because to me this represents illumination or enlightenment of the mind. So I picked out this combination, which is wind, reverent inward, and thunder, dragon inciting. So it's wind and thunder combination. If you master enrichment, setting out towards a destination brings forth wild bounty, and crossing a great river brings forth wild bounty. So the presentation: enrichment depletes everything lofty and enriches everything lowly. So the people's joy swells beyond all bounds. Everything lofty, sinking beneath everything lowly, such is the way in its vast radiance. So this interpretation of the idea of lofty, sometimes we can see lofty as being a positive thing, like you have lofty goals, you have higher goals for yourself and humanity. Lofty, thinking higher. But in this interpretation, it means extraneous, excessive, frivolous, and that it's more important to have lowly desires because it's more about being in tune with the simpleness, the nature of things. And so it's a reminder to not be so, I guess, transfixed by the radiance of the lofty things in life and being more happy with some of the lowly things, everything lofty sinking beneath everything lowly. Such is the way, the Tao, in its vast radiance. So there's a true equilibrium that happens where a state of wholeness happens, where the lofty things meet up with the same level of the lowly things. So what you think is lowly actually becomes lofty, and what you think was lofty actually became lowly. It's a unification of truth, basically, and seeing what really matters in life. Setting out towards a destination brings forth wild bounty, centered at the hinge of things, you know blessings. Crossing a great river brings forth wild bounty. The way of boat, timber, trees is what makes it possible. Enrichment is the dragon's inciting force, moving together with the reverent and inward. In enrichment, you move ahead as an offering, on and beyond all bounds. Heaven bestows, earth begets, and so enrichment continues always and everywhere. The way of enrichment moves always in accord with its proper seasons. I just had a vision, just when I was reading this. Enrichment is the dragon's inciting force, moving together with the reverent and inward. You know, this connects very much with the Gnostic idea and the idea of Lucifer being the light bearer, bringing forth illumination to mankind that somehow made him fall from grace because he's now having knowledge of both good and evil and no longer just knowledge of the good in the Garden of Eden. So this is very much connected. The idea of Lucifer, the light bearer, the one that represents light, basically an angel of light. And then the dragon's light is about enrichment and illumination as well. So there is a very strong crossing of culture here, and in terms of wisdom, between the Gnostics and the idea of Lucifer and the idea of dragons and the illumination idea in the Chinese mythology. This next one is called Unbound. So Unbound, I always felt that Unbound is really important because even though you want, when we're talking about enlightenment and ascension, there's two schools of thought sometimes, because some people feel like you have to get rid of all your material possessions. You have to detach yourself from the material world completely. So there's this idea of being unbound from the material world that brings you towards your enlightenment and your spiritual truth. So unbound in this regard is a combination of thunder, dragon inciting, and water, an abyss of danger. So this is what unbound means here. On Southwest Plains, wild bounty is unbound, set out with nowhere to go, and returning home brings good fortune indeed. Set out towards a destination and drawn brings good fortune indeed. Set out towards a destination and dawn brings good fortune indeed. Unbound in the face of danger, you can use the dragon's inciting force. Using the dragon's inciting force to elude danger. That is the unbound. On Southwest Plains, wild bounty is unbound because going there you abide with the people. Returning home brings good fortune because you inhabit the unbiding center of things. Set out towards a destination, and dawn brings good fortune indeed. Setting out is where great achievement begins. When heaven and earth come unbound, thunder and rain break loose. When thunder and rain break loose, the 100 fruits and wildflowers and trees all burst into life. How vast, how utterly vast it is, the unbound following its proper seasons. So unbound to me is freedom in this regard. And I think that this has a lot to do with enlightenment and ascension. It really is about freedom, feeling personally free from your worries, your doubts, your fears, also feeling a bit free from the earthly material kind of matrix of society. It's not that you don't have to follow laws or rules, because they're there for a reason to keep us all safe. But in this regard, it's about being free to feel like you're an individual living your life, not controlled by others, and that you have this sort of autonomy to do as you please. And that type of sense of personal freedom is very important for the soul, because we're all here to express ourselves as a point of the divine in its representation on earth. And we are expressing ourselves in this, if we can do it with a freedom, a true free sense, then we are basically living out our full purpose, and we will achieve everything that we have set out to achieve in our destination. So being unbound in spirit is very important to ascension and enlightenment. And if you've got this part of your oracle in the I-Ching, then it would be a confirmation for you to know that you are becoming more unbound, you're becoming more free, or that you need to become more free within yourself and let go of some of these worries that are holding you back. When you think about, I always visualize, a balloon being tied down by a weight, but if you cut the cords and the tie of whatever's weighing you down, whether it be a person in your life, whether it be fears or doubts in your own self, whether anything of that nature is holding you back, cut the cords and your balloon will set sail and, will be free. And that's kind of how our spirit is. The moment that you recognize what is holding you back in life, that is when you start to find your freedom again. And this is a lot about enlightenment and ascension, is being unbounded by earth, by the earthly problems and the earthly issues. It doesn't mean ignore them, because as you see in the I-Ching, it's all about facing the danger. And as it said, that if you use the dragon's power, the inciting force, using this fire of radiance and beauty within yourself, and you use it to elude danger, that is the unbound. So if you use the dragon force in you to basically to overcome danger, then that's when you feel more free in spirit, not controlled by that fear anymore. Last one, and then we're going to chat, is wholeness. So wholeness is the other one that I attributed to ascension and enlightenment, and something to contemplate more on. Wholeness is important in Taoism because wholeness is basically the way. It's the Tao. So wholeness in this represents the elements, the lake, opening and delight, and the mountain, still and abiding. So think about that combination, being a mountain, still strong in yourself, in your core, and then also having the lake element of opening and the delight, open-heartedness, open-mindedness, and delight and joy. Wholeness, penetrating everywhere. Wholeness is inexhaustible in bringing forth wild bounty. Taking a woman in marriage brings forth good fortune. So that's the I-Ching. So basically you could see that this is telling an emperor, if they consulted the I-Ching, to take a woman, to be open-minded, open-hearted, to allow love in, so that you can experience the good fortune of life. Wholeness is what incites, tender ascent above and steely as a mountain and cloud below. Yin above and yang below, it is through wholeness that these two chi forces incite each other and move together. Wholeness is abiding and delight, male beneath female, That's why penetrating everywhere, wholeness is inexhaustible in bringing forth wild bounty, while taking a woman in marriage brings forth good fortune. When wholeness incites all heaven and earth, the 10,000 things are alive and all transformation. When a great sage incites the people's heart and mind, all beneath heaven lies in tranquil accord. If you can see what incites it all with a heron's eyes gaze, you are looking into the very nature of heaven and earth and the 10,000 things themselves. So a heron, like a bird, if you actually take a bird's eye view on perspective of what is insightful in life, what life is about, you're looking at the very nature of heaven and earth and the 10,000 things themselves, all the 10,000 forms basically that the heaven and earth take and manifest themselves as. And then this attributes wholeness, looking at things from a greater picture, a greater perspective, and allowing yourself to have the joy and the delight in your life through marriage or love, through not even that, but just through being happy and being grateful for just being alive, but also being really secure with who you are spiritually. And that's the mountain part, very still, that inner stillness, because you can be open-minded and full of delight in life, but you might not be very centered. And this happens to some people. Some people have so much joy and they have so much experiences and they travel and they have a lot of great time. But the problem is that they don't center, if they don't center themselves and they don't employ the mountain energy within that, they can be swayed into the wrong direction in terms of meeting people that cause them problems, taking advantage of their need for joy and their need for love and delight, and getting into situations that are no longer fun and are no longer a delight. So it is about having a great combination within yourself, which is wholeness. Being a whole, a well-rounded person, a more whole person is about having both the energies of the yin and the yang. And that's what wholeness is. You can never be fully whole if you only embody the yin, and you can never be fully whole if you only embody the energy of the yang. It is all about embodying both and learning what that means as a delicate balance of harmony within yourself. So, wonderful book. Once again, I'll show you. Let me just stop the screen here. So this is the book here by David Hinton. And like I said, it goes through and shows you the different hexagram combinations that I read. And I just picked out a few hexagrams that I think just their wisdom just can help us with ascension and enlightenment more in our own life. Just really quickly, I forgot to go over this part. Just kind of interesting info. There is a movie on Amazon. It's called The Secrets of the I-Ching that you might want to watch if you want to learn more about it. And it talks about Richard William in late 1800s, like close to the 1900s. He actually was the first one to bring back the I-Ching wisdom and to translate it in German and English form, because he was an emissary in China and he learned this wisdom of the Chinese people and the Chinese culture. So he brought back the I-Ching to Germany and then later on to America. And this is why the I-Ching became so popular with all these different, secret societies, elites, presidents have used it, Beatles, like I said, Bob Dylan, lots of people have used it. It became really popular, especially like in the 60s during the hippie movement, because the Eastern philosophies were coming in to bring people more ideas of peace and prosperity. And it was all about the inward journey, which is why psychedelics became really popular, because psychedelics bring forth that inward journey. That's what they do. It's different from other types of drugs, because other types of drugs make you more aware of the outside world, whether it's cocaine or other types of forms of substances. But the inward journey is what psychedelics do. So the 60s were more about that. And that's why Timothy Leary and all that came about during the 60s. So it is just like a rune system. Just really quickly, how to consult. You can actually find it on WikiHow. It's very easy. How to consult the I-Ching. There's a video that I will put in the description of this video or in the comment section. It's a very easy way to use 3 coins to do the I-Ching. So how to consult the I-Ching. There are 2 methods for consulting the I-Ching, using shaman flower stalks or using coins. In either case, one approaches the procedure with some sense, whether vague or precise, or the question or issues to be answered. Shaman flower is a common euro, and using it is quite complicated, but it's the original method and might be considered the only true accurate method because the coin method produces results with substantially different probabilities. The coin method is by far the most commonly used, but some people prefer the shaman flower method because of the tactile experience of using the stalks and because there's a meditative quality to performing its repetitive procedures. The shaman flower procedure has evolved and changed over time, and its original version is not known. The version given here provides the essentials without superficialist details and seems most suited to the approach of the translation. So the shaman flower method is basically having different types of sticks. Well, they're basically the shaman flower stalks, and you want to have 50 of them. And the first set aside 1 stalk, which is not used, and that becomes the yin side, and then you have the other side, which is the yang. And so what you're doing is you're dividing the bundle appropriately in half between the 50. So you have 25, 25, and you're producing a yin bundle and a yang bundle. From the right-hand bundle, take 1 stalk and place it on the table. From the left-hand bundle, take away groups of 4 stalks until there are 4 or fewer remaining. Put these remaining stalks on the table beside the 1 stalk and do the same with the right-handed bundle. So you'll always have a mathematical principle that dictates that there'll either be 4 or 8 stalks. And the numerical values for these are 4 stalks equal a numerical value of 3, or 8 stalks is a numerical value of 2. What you're going to do with the coins is basically the same thing, that the yin is tails, and it's a numerical value of 2, and the yang is the value of 3. And the yin is the 2 dots. Maybe I can go back and show you just again. So the yin is going to be the 2 dots separated, basically, or the 2 lines broken up. Or, okay, 1 line broken up into 2 different sections. And the full line that you see is the numerical value of 3. So what you do is you're tossing up the coins 6 times for 3 coins to land to give you the different interpretations that you see. So I'm using just regular quarters. You could use the I-Ching coins, which are basically Chinese coins with a little hole in the center, square in the center, or you could just use regular coins that you have at your house. But you just want to make sure that you have a tails and a head side, and that you make sure that the yin side is 2 and the head side is 3. The head is yang and the tail is always at the end, so it's the yin, comes later. So you can think of it that way. So the head is yang and the tails is yin. So what you would do is you toss up 3 coins. Let me do this without dropping them. And throw them down. So I have 1 head, 2 tails. So what that means then is I have 1 head, one straight line, 2 tails. So that would be the lake. Well, actually, I want to do this in a way where it is true combination. You would want to do it 6 times anyway, so I would have to do it this way. Because you're going to repeat the operation 2 and add the resulting number to the first 2. But I know that this is going to be a little complicated for me to show you on this video, because it would be easier probably to kind of watch on your own and to figure it out on your own. So if you are really interested in learning about the math and how you toss up 3 coins 6 times and you get basically 9 lines of combination, and then that's what then produces, which I will show you here, the 64. Once again, 64. Oops. I lost it for a second. I think I closed on it. This one was good. Here it is. So this is 1. Can you guys see that one? Oh, there we go. How's that? Oh, that's not the one I want. Sorry about that. I think I closed that screen. Okay, there we go. Good. So then, as you can see, so if I did this another time, so I got the lake, the first one. It looked like the lake. Now let me try to do another set. I got another head, tails, and tails. Yeah. So head, tails, so line, tails, the separated line, and then do another one. And then I got a head, head, and tails. And then you're going to put head, head, tails on the bottom here. And then as far as, so I got that, and now it's just about basically adding. It says there's a much simpler method which requires the 3 coins, which I'm doing right now, preferably Chinese bronze coins with a hole in the center. Whatever coin is used, identify as the head side and tail side. And the head side is the value of 3, and the tail side is a value of 2. For each line of the hexagram, the 3 coins are tossed and the numerical value of the 3 together tallied. The number will always be 6, 7, 8, or 9. After 6 tosses, the hexagram is determined. Then you find the hexagram on page 137 and proceed as in the shaman flower method. So then basically you're going to, so I did that with the 6 and the numerical value. So I have, the lake was, that was the, so I got a combination of 7 on my first toss. And then I got a next combination of the line. Sorry, I'm trying to do this quickly here for you. I got another 7. So we got 14. And then I got another 3, 3, 6. So I got 6 and then another 2. So I got an 8. So I got 15. And then I have the 7 here. And then that would be the 22. So my hexagram would be 22. So then I would go back and look and see what my number is. So I'll read you 22 just for the fun of it. Let's see what I got. 22. Elegance. Oh, I like that one. Elegance. The mountain energy of still and abiding, and fire, radiance, beauty. So moving with the beauty of cowrie shells, elegance penetrates everywhere, and so setting out towards a destination brings forth very little bounty. Presentation. So this is what it would mean. Elegance penetrates everywhere, coming all tender ascent, moving with the beauty of cowrie shells. You come steely as a mountain and cloud, moving deep into the grain of things, and so you penetrate everywhere. Raising steely as a mountain and cloud, moving with the beauty of cowrie shells. You rise, all tender, ascent, moving deep into the grain of things, and so setting out towards a destination brings forth very little bounty. It's the deep grain of heaven, to illuminate heaven's deep grain and abide there. That is the deep grain of people. If you can see into the deep grain of heaven with a heron's eyes gaze, you can fathom the seasons and their transformations. If you can see into the deep grain of humankind with a heron's eyes gaze, you can transform and perfect all beneath heaven. Oh, wow, that is beautiful. So then that would mean something, especially for me. And that's how it works. And that's how you can do it every day to get some kind of message of spirit for yourself. But what I like about this is that it can help you on your path towards enlightenment in terms of greater reminders about the inward journey, because that's really what this is about and what enlightenment really means to me. And Ascension, it's about the inward journey. It's not really about going anywhere, not necessarily, but I do believe that different portals of experience will open up when you ascend. So Ascension has been thought about as the rapture, as ascending on a spaceship and moving away somewhere else. Well, what I have discovered just through my own personal contemplation time and reflection time is that, and kind of like a remembering basically that I'm sharing, is that basically you're not going anywhere when you ascend, except going more further inward. And going more further inward opens up a greater experience. And it's like the tesseract of the soul, where you just start to have more of an openness with accepting life and creating space in the mind. And when you create space in the mind, just like in meditation, you start to be okay with everything that is also in your life. So it's a sense of wholeness and well-being and really a state of bliss while you are living on earth. And this is a state where the ascended masters have gotten to in the way that they represent living on earth in this ascended state of being, that yes, we had Jesus's ascension, and we'll talk about that in another video where we talk about ascension. But to me, it represents an inward ascension, if that makes sense. It's not about going anywhere. And you can attribute it to the idea of, getting on the boat like J.R. Tolkien had and going to Valinor. Well, even though that is a particular physical journey, a movement on a boat going somewhere else, you can actually go on a boat to the west in Valinor within yourself. And that's what I have discovered and what I have remembered about myself and my own journey. And that's what I would like to share with all of you, and what I believe is key to our own personal happiness is to go more inward rather than outward, but to actually journey further and deeper within, so that we start to make sense of the world, and not so much make sense of it, but accept it as it is and enjoy the experience of the yin and the yang that you see taking place, and the harmony that is happening between the dark and the light, and all that you see that is going on in your experience is for you as the observer to basically to experience and to gain some further insight, on. So I hope that this helped you and introduced you to the I-Ching system. I think it's a wonderful system. I think it's very interesting. I don't know if I would use it every day, but I think I'm going to definitely consult the I-Ching. I feel very connected to it because of the elemental aspects of it. using the idea of the lake and the water and the mountains and the fire and all that just really resonates with my elven soul very much. There's a book by the Silver Elves actually about the I-Ching. So I would love to get that book so I can see their connection, because I'm sure that they are kind of drawing the same connections that I did, where they're seeing this elemental wisdom within the I-Ching and how it represents. And if you like dragons, then it would be a good thing too, because it's about getting in touch with that positive dragon force, that energy. It is really interesting, isn't it, Noreen? I really like it. It's very freeing too. It's very freeing because it's about kind of harnessing both the yin and the yang aspects of the cosmos, and even the yin and the yang of dragons. Because for a long time, I have also been so aware of some of the negative kind of knowledge about dragons. And I've also been aware of the positive, and that type of conflict within me has been very apparent. So it's so nice to feel like I could just leave that conflict away, like on the side of me, and basically just, embrace this system of the dragon force. So I just really love that. And it helps, basically make me stronger too. Because when you get in touch with that dragon spirit, I liked the introduction where David Hinton talked about, I read it for some of you, I know you didn't get a chance to hear, but if you go back to the beginning, David Hinton talked about how the dragon is our ancestor. So there's an idea within the starseed community and even in the Palladian messages where our ancestors were both the Lyrans and the Dracos. And so we have this connection to the dragons as well as to the mammalians, because dragons are cold-blooded reptilian, and the mammalian part of us is what makes basically a nice wholeness, because it's like the mammalian mixed with the reptilian, the warm-blooded mixed with the cold-blooded. To me, that offers a sense of greater wholeness than I have yet experienced. And so embracing this dragon energy that comes from the I-Ching wisdom and formulating it into the elemental wisdom that you see here, it just really is a beautiful system to me. I really like it a lot. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Peter. Yeah, it does resonate with me a lot. I really enjoy it. Yeah, Taoism, Confucianism, all of that, it's all related to nature. And, there is this elemental primal kind of wisdom with that I believe that Elven wisdom taps into, whether you want to think of elves as other beings or whether you want to think of elves as a spirit of or archetype that humanity can embody. It's about getting in touch with this ancient wisdom of nature. And even the Palladians talked about it. The idea in the messages of Billy Meyer from 1975, it relates very much to the I-Ching that all things that we observe in nature can be basically can give us the answers to our greatest questions about the universe. It's really just about taking the time to observe nature, and that's what the I-Ching has done. It has provided a way of basically looking at the mountain or the lake and what they each represent, and then looking at how they influence and represent within ourselves. And when we toss coins 6 times and we get the combination, that particular way that the coin has fallen determines what you were meant to know, what you were meant to see, and what was a mirror to you and your destiny, and what you're supposed to, I feel what you're supposed to get at this particular time in information. Because that's how divination works. It comes to us at a time when we're ready for that information as just a reminder. It's just a reminder from our higher selves, and to help us a little bit along the path when we get lost. Divination has been something that has been called evil from the churches, and sometimes it's regarded as witchcraft, but it's really just about honoring the way of the cosmos, understanding that everything is a reflection of the higher self, or the inward self, and that when you use the rune stones or you use the I-Ching coins in this way, you're basically just getting answers that you might normally may not have paid attention to. And so it's just about kind of awakening yourself to that state of awareness. But yeah, I really like the I-Ching. I have a personal story. It's kind of interesting. So we have a Chinatown in Chicago, and it's beautiful. Our Chinatown is gorgeous, and I love visiting it. It's all the way on the south side, and I've been there maybe twice. And I went there and I bought some things, and the woman at the counter, she gave me 3 coins that were tied up in a red string as like a free gift. And currently I can't find them in my house because I think I put them away in a secret space. I wasn't really sure what they were, as far as I didn't know that they were I-Ching coins. So if I find them, I'll have the official bronze coins with the little hole in the center so that I can use it and use it with the 64 hexagrams. I thought that was really interesting that I do have I-Ching coins. I just didn't know what they were because, I didn't grow up in that culture. I have more Irish in me and things like that. So I don't pay attention to the Chinese culture, but it was a really nice gift, I think, from her, and probably in my life for a reason. So I'm happy at this point in time, I was ready to receive the information and to use the I-Ching, basically, because before I just thought that the coins were a symbol of luck and good fortune. So I put them away in like a safekeeping place, and now I just need to find it again so I can use it. So Noreen, I remember McKenna was talking about it in the video. I need to rewatch just at that part where he talked about the I-Ching. That does not surprise me, because the I-Ching, I think, would be something that Terence McKenna would be all about, because it is about the inward journey, and he was very much into psychedelics and going inward, and believed that humanity would ascend and evolve if they learned how to all embrace the inward journey more, which I 100% agree. I am completely about the inward journey, and I've seen it with myself, and I know that if each one of us took the time to go inward, we would all have a very different mindset, a very formed collective. So in some way, I guess that's what the Ascension Project is really about, is to make everybody more inward and self-reflecting, so that we can transcend, humanity in that way together as a collective. And Noreen, you said he was regarding, he was talking about it in regards to 2012, how the I-Ching predicted it. Neat. Okay. I'll definitely have to go back to that video that I shared, the last interview. It's called The Last Interview of Terence McKenna Before He Died, and it has wonderful wisdom. It's a very long interview. It was about like an hour long. So I'm going to have to go back and listen, because I didn't get a chance to listen to the whole thing. I got a sense of it, and I was like, I'm going to share this because it's just really great. So thank you for telling me that, Noreen. And now we know it was December, and we can definitely see it manifesting. It'll be really interesting. You watched it 3 times, Durin? That's good. That's cool. I like that. It was profound. He's a very smart man. Very smart man. Part of the reason is because he did a lot of psychedelics, and they really opened up his mind. And he was not afraid to take that inward journey. So, yeah. And that's something that I'm experimenting too, because now, in my state, it's legal. And it's been a lot of fun. In quarantine, I've been going through a shamanic kind of experience in that way. And I will talk about shamanism soon, because that's something I do want to share, because I think that each of us, although we might not call ourselves shamans, we can each take a trip into the subconscious and see what lies there in order to help us further on our ascension and our enlightenment and our journey. And yeah, it's all about the inward journey. It really is. And the I-Ching is really a symbol of that. So I'm hoping that this can help you on your path, your own path to enlightenment, in whatever way that it means to you, because all I can do is give you my perspective and what I have experienced, through my awakening and what I'm learning and going through with you all. But it's going to mean something different for all of us. So yeah, it's really, I think it's a great system to use, and I just wanted to share it with you all tonight. So thank you for joining. I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, so those of you who joined, I really appreciate it. Super Bowl has never really held my attention, and I have other types of, interests. So I'm really happy that some of you were able to join me tonight. But yeah, definitely check out the I-Ching if you can. That book is a really good one. I definitely recommend it. I think that it's really helpful. The translations are really beautiful, and they are done in a way that really reflects the original I-Ching. He made sure of that. So when I was reading it to you, I got kind of carried away in the prose of it all, because it's very poetic, and yeah, it has like this certain type of rhythm to it. And yeah, I think that this is a lovely system to start using for us as Elven souls, and those of us that are just looking for more guidance in life. I think that this is really nice. Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure, Peter. I'm glad that you were able to join tonight. Well, I am going to get going, but I hope you had some fun in learning all about the I-Ching. And please watch some videos. I don't know if I was very, descriptive or direct with how I toss the coins, because I kind of was behind the screen doing it. But there are some YouTube tutorials where you can just learn easily. But basically what you're going to do is you're just going to toss it and get your combination of lines. And then you add those lines with the numerical value, and then you add up the number, you tally up that number, and then that's what hexagram you get. But you can learn more on the how-to videos, maybe in a little bit more detailed way if you are very interested. And once again, I'll put it down in the description for you so you have that. Everyone have a wonderful night, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Namaste.